Welcome back to the fashionably late Old Bull and Young Cat Boston Sports Podcast. 5 minutes late, and just like the Patriots, we showed up a little bit late to free agency, but just like the Patriots, we're still going to deliver some good news and some positive and good talk about this free agency class. So started off rough, to say the least. Within probably the first 10 minutes of free agency, Chris Godwin so went right back to the Bucks, and that was a kick in the balls. But things got better. Things got better. So, Dad, uh, I mean, just don't go into every single detail, but what's your first impression of the day?
First, I want to hit our sponsors. We
Oh yeah,
have
sure.
Moonlight Boba Teas down in St. Pete, Florida. Amazing, tasty boba teas there. You need a therapist in the Pinellas Park, Florida area, hit up William McCormick. He is the best around. And then Sip and Savor, my little cousin Abigail in Grafton, Massachusetts. Amazing protein drinks to start your day. So, yeah, talk about the old bull was almost had a stroke today following everything because it was brutal. It was
Yeah.
just, you know, you heard nothing from the Patriots at first, and then their first big signing was a linebacker I am not crazy about. Like, he's basically Jawan Bentley 2.0, really good against the run, cannot cover to save his life. And to me, linebackers in today's NFL, need to be able to cover. But man, I tell you what, all that saltiness from the old man got turned around pretty quickly eventually because they dropped some absolute bombs, and I'm for the most part pretty happy. And we'll give out some grades, and
Holy
we'd like to
crap.
know your thoughts.
Oh crap. All right. So we just got all the thoughts from Patrick Ryan. So really quickly, uh,
Whoa!
really quick, Pat, before we hit on yours, because we could just talk about yours all day. Jeff, I know, let me address the elephant in the room. I'm sad we lost Carlton Davis, but I'm happy he's going to you guys. We will hopefully treat him well. I guess he's a stud in man coverage. And pairing him with Christian Gonzalez, we're not going to ask him to be the number one guy, but we're hopefully going to ask him to give us solid number two snaps. So I'm super excited about Carlton Davis. We will talk about him, but let's go. Patrick Ryan. I can already tell. I don't even have to. I just read good first day, and I already like it. Completely agree. So this is pretty much the too long didn't watch of the podcast. If I read this, Patrick Ryan's pretty much going to sum up everything for us here. Some solid additions on the defensive side of the ball with Milton Williams on the D line, and a solid second quarterback to play opposite of Christian Gonzalez and Davis. Right? I heard Vrabel doesn't like to play a lot of man, or I didn't like to play a lot of man in Tennessee, but he didn't have Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, so that could change. Good linebacking depth that will help stop the run as they need, as that was a clear weakness for the team last year. My dad doesn't like that linebacking ad, but like one of the best run blocking or run stopping linebackers in the game. You need to score points to win, and the lack of signings on offensive ball is alarming. And an average O-line signing in Moses isn't going to move the needle. I am a little more confident in McDaniels as offensive coordinator to put together a scheme in place that will hide some of the weaknesses on that side of the ball. But at the end of the day, May still has no protection or weapons. If there was a plan to fill those holes in the draft, then that just isn't good enough. Do they revisit Ayuk Cup trade? Do those players change the landscape of this wide receiving group? I don't think so. If they are going to rely on the secondary free agent market or the draft surround May, then to surround May, then this will be another failed offseason, another wasted year for Mac. Hopefully, there's more to come. What is Patrick? Did Peter
That's it.
DePadua write the second half of that? But go ahead, Dad.
We can wrap up the show. Pat just covered a lot of it. So, all right. Good seeing you. We'll see you next week. Well, anyway, don't you dare ever call Drake May Mac again. You called him
did
Mac.
I did I say Mac?
That is
Oh,
unforgivable.
I
You're
don't
lucky
know.
I'm not there. I'd give you a fresh one. Holy cow.
I think that's
I
revisionist
mean,
history. So let's start from the top, right? If you looked at NFL, CBS Sports had a ranking the top 100 free agents, right? Number one, Sam Darnold. We did not want him. Number two, T. Higgins. He, of course, got forced to stay with his team. Josh Sweat. A lot of people say overrated, a bit streaky, but he was number three. Trey Smith, franchise tagged. Ronnie Staley, he got scooped up by his team. Number six, and really the best free agent to actually move teams outside of Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. This guy is an impact player, and he brings He is, of course, no one's Aaron Donald, right? But he is the second best defensive lineman at generating pressure in the NFL right now. It is a massive reason to be excited about. He was, I think, the blue chip guy to hit the market. If you're asking me, Josh Sweat, I think is I don't know. I think he's a good player, but he might be a bit on the hype. Whereas Milton Williams just gets the job done, and he's like a kind of a well-rounded player. So I'm so excited about that, Patrick. How do you feel about that signing off the top? What Patrick said.
So that's the difference, right, between defensive tackle and defensive end. Defensive ends who generate pressure, they're just easier to find. There's more out there. There's a ton in this draft. Defensive tackles who can generate pressure up the middle, that's a different story. Those guys are game wreckers. No quarterback wants to throw with the pocket collapsing in front of them. There's a lot more you can do when your tackles get beat. If you see it, you can maneuver out of it. You could just whatever, tuck it and run, or you can just step up in the pocket. When pressure comes directly up the middle, there's very little you can do. You can't step up in the pocket. And if you try to bail and left or right, you got to hope your tackles are holding up well, because if one of those guys get by, you're just going to run right into a sack. So guys who generate pressure up the middle are much more valuable than edge guys, and we got the best one. It's simple. I actually read, I thought it was Pro Football Focus had him as the #1 defensive tackle as far as generating pass rush pressure. That's just huge. He's not good against the run, though. He's light. He's 290. So he's not going to be in there every down. He's not going to be stuffing the run. He's probably going to be a second and third down player. He's going to play a lot on second and third down. But they got kind of a backup for him to come in maybe on first down. He's not guaranteed to make the team, but Tango, I think his name is.
Yep, from the Cardinals.
Pounds, defensive tackle. Yeah, he's only 1 year, $2.7 million, so he's not definite. He's not on the team. He could get cut with a salary like that, but it's already a big boy we can plug in the middle if he's any good to take up first down runs.
Yep. So I completely agree. And I think he's a player to get excited about. As Jeff Unknown said, Jeff, was he your #1 guy? Was Carlton Davis the #1 cornerback for the Lions? If you could answer that, I would greatly appreciate it. Because I feel like the responsibility is a drastic difference, right? I think there's only maybe 5, I would say closer to 5, not closer to 10 #1 wide receivers in the league, like clear cut #1 guys. And if you're the second wide receiver, you usually don't have to deal with those guys. So I'm wondering if Carlton Davis, who he was usually on, what this opens up for us with Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones, his speed, shiftiness, he can go maybe in the slot now. We don't have to ask for too much from him. So I'm really excited about the Carlton Davis sign. Overall, good Pro Football Focus grades. 29 years old, 3 years, and we had a ton of cap space. He was before he broke his jaw. Okay, he was their #1 guy. We're not going to ask him to do that here.
So Carl Davis, here's my scoop on him. When they first signed him, I'm familiar with him when he was in Tampa. I remember him in the Super Bowl, and he's a good
favorite team.
He's a good #1 corner. Yeah, right. So at first I loved the signing, and then I did a little bit more research, and now I like it. I like it a lot. He's missed more games than I like. He averages missing about a quarter a season a year, around 12 games he plays. He generates penalties. He gets penalties. He's pretty handsy. So Patriots fans going to be aware. He's very aggressive, and sometimes he gets a little over aggressive. So expect some penalties. But the fact that he's your #2 is still excellent. We had to obviously overpay for him, because I'm not sure he was the best free agent corner on the market, yet we paid him like he is. I don't think any other cornerback's going to make more than him, looking at who else is out there. And, the Detroit, that guy we got, who's our defensive coordinator now, Williams, he probably had an influence on him coming over. So that does make me feel better that our new defensive coordinator had to have gone to bat for this guy and said, hey, Mike Vrabel, we need this guy. Get him in here. He's worth the money, even though we overpaid for him a little bit.
Yeah, and you talked about his money. So it looks like the CBS Sports article has the DJ Reed kid. He was a quarterback for the New York Jets. They had him ranked above it. He is getting about $12 million less. I'm not too sure what the guarantees were, but I feel like
Yeah.
that's a bit tough to say because he was the number 2 guy. This is just like wide receivers,
Yes.
right? DJ Reed, he had Sauce
Mhm.
Gardner on the best wide receiver on every team. Now he's going to go somewhere else. He's going to the Lions, so they swapped him
Yeah.
out. I think he's a year younger. Oh no, he's the same age as Carlton Davis. So I don't know. It's an
Jeff,
interesting move.
the question to ask Jeff is, Jeff, do you know if he always took the number 1 receiver when he played? I would love to know that. If in Detroit that he took the number 1 receiver all the time, that would be great to know.
Yep, and here we go. Patrick Ryan, agree on the overpay. I think they honestly overpaid on all the players. But when you come off a 4-13 season, you need to overpay to get players. I'm glad to see Kraft finally open the checkbook. Patrick, I agree. And Patrick, I don't know how old
Yep.
you are. You look like a young guy. You don't look old like my dad. But what I've heard is that the reality of the pre-Brady and Belichick area is people didn't want to come to New England. People don't want to live near Foxborough. So it's kind of an undesirable location. So you have to overpay. Did we have to pay the suck tax back then, Dad? Was it that bad? Are we that overshadowed by LA? And is that how that goes?
Before Brady, absolutely. We got nobody. There was nobody
Oh.
coming here, and free agency wasn't the same it was back then, though, as it is today. It's not even close. Once we got Brady and Belichick, and it was almost a guarantee we were going to be in the AFC Championship game every year. We had the best players taking discounts. I mean, that was just a fact, and those days are long gone, though. So, but I
We
agree
got to
with Patrick.
overpay.
We probably overpaid. Yeah, we're not getting any deals. Not until we get established as a winning organization again. I'm hoping that turns around this year. I think the Patriots can be back in the playoffs, but they still have a lot of work to do because, in case you didn't notice, everything went to the freaking defense. I mean, there was kind of one significant offensive signing, but man, we got other stuff to talk about because right now, Drake May's side of the ball is getting completely neglected, and I'm not crazy about that. And we had an opportunity to plug our second biggest hole, a number 1 wide receiver. And for the love of God, I don't know why we just passed on it. We had a chance to get DK Metcalf, and okay, is he the best wide receiver in the league? No. Is he the best number 1 receiver in the league? Nope. But he's the number 1. And that dude is young. He fits Drake May's timeline. He's always healthy. He's in amazing shape all the time, so you don't have to worry about him getting fat and lazy like after he gets his big payday. And he's talented. I don't care if he's a bit of a diva. I don't care if his routes aren't great. The guy can get open. That's all there
Yep.
is to it. And we needed a guy like that. And we didn't want to give up a second round pick and pay him. I'm just not crazy about that. And I get it. I want that high second round pick too, but there's still no guarantee with it. Look at our track record drafting. There's no guarantee with that second round pick. You know what I can guarantee? I can guarantee that DK Metcalf's going to be good.
Yeah.
So
He's going to go to
that's a sure
no matter.
thing.
My dad could be the quarterback of the Steelers, and he's still going to put up 1,200, 1,300 yards next year because that's just how good that player is, and that would be like double what our highest wide receiver has done in a while. Patrick Ryan,
with no receiver competition, he would. He had like 2 other really good receivers in Seattle, so his numbers were a little down because of that. Because Geno Smith was spreading the ball around, but he comes to New England, he's going to get like 120, 130 targets, so he would get somewhere around probably 1,200 to 1,500 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, right, we used to be blacked don't remember that. Don't remember it being blacked out, but I remember, that did happen. This team is not a desirable place, and that's okay. It's not our money. And guess what? We have a rookie quarterback, so we can afford this stuff while everybody else is. Can you believe? We'll touch on this, but the Bills ripping up Josh Allen's contracts when they got him for a bargain, right? And now they're ripping it up and saying, you know what? Doubling your guaranteed money. That's a crazy situation there. We'll get back to that. Should mean that they focused on offense in the draft. They have to, Scott. And I told my dad, and we talked about this before, I really don't think we could have built a very good to excellent offense with this free agent class. I don't think it was there. I think what we can build is a very good to excellent defense, and that's the way it seemed to be kind of charting. I don't want to ignore offense. I just feel like as much as we overpaid on defense, we would have to really overpay on offense and to get even worse players because it's just not there right now. I believe so. Teron Arnold was a rookie and drew a ton of penalties too. So that's another wide receiver over there. So I think Davis was usually the top QB. Jeff, how do you feel about the DJ Reed? Because you guys traded pretty much at this point. DJ Reed is now your guy. Are you upset about that? Do you not care? Indifferent? I know you probably didn't watch too many Jets games because not even Jets fans watch Jets games. So I don't blame you if you don't know who DJ Reed is. But curious of your feelings if you're glad to get rid of him. I'm hearing Ayuk is rumored to be traded to the Steelers as well. Scott, are you breaking news on the podcast?
That could be Scott. Because that's again, like he probably he wouldn't even be in training camp because he played 7 games, he tore his ACL. He wouldn't start the season, but he'd be on the PUP list. In other words, he'd be back after game 4 sometime. So, and there's never any guarantee they're going to be the same player. Usually with torn ACLs, that first year back, the player is not the same. But usually year 2, they get back to where they were. So, again, we can't be too picky. That's what, on Boston Sports Journal, like I love that site. I write for them here and there. But man, the people commenting and acting like DK Metcalf's like, oh, we don't want him anyway. It's like, have you been watching the same wide receiver group the last 4 years? Oh, now we can be picky? Now we can be selective? No, guys, we can't. I'm sorry. Stop waiting around for the second coming of Jerry Rice and Larry Fitzgerald because they're not walking through the door. I'm sorry. We need to take what we can get. We can't be too picky at this point. So I would take Ayuk. I would really love Higgins, but now that Hendricks is not coming back to Cincy, I don't see them trading T. Higgins. So, unfortunately,
Bengals are doing the opposite
as well. Yeah,
they're loading up on offense.
Because I feel like Cincy's just loading up on offense. So they're gonna either keep Higgins on that final year of being franchised, the franchise tag, or they're going to sign him to a new deal because they don't have to pay Hendricks 20-something million a year now that they're about to trade him.
All right, I'm scrolling up. I'm going to find out where we are in Patrick Ryan's initial comment so we could keep the podcast on task. We'll let Patrick guide us here. And, going here, we got Moses, right? I mean, from the Jets, was their right tackle. Don't mind the signing, but I think this goes back to what I said. There really wasn't much there. I wanted Joe Thuney in the trade market, but that's a guard. Right tackle, there wasn't, the Jalen kid from the 49ers. Maybe it'd been nice to have him. It looks like he landed in the Chiefs, but it's hard to compete with the Chiefs. If the Chiefs want somebody, there's not much you can do about getting them away from him.
You got to address it. They already overpaid for him. Even the Chiefs overpaid for that kid. He's played 5 games. He's an unproven swing tackle who played pretty well in those 5 games. Okay, the Chiefs gave him $15 million a year for 2 years, $30 million. Like, I don't know if I'd want to invest that for a guy who's just not proven. So the funny thing is, I want to be mad that they didn't do much for free agency as far as offense goes, but I look at the players and I'm like, it's not really. Even Chris Godwin, I was like, the dude dislocated his ankle. Like, when is he going to be back? He has to miss probably first half of this year too. So I wasn't necessarily. And is he going to be the same after an injury like that? It was a gruesome injury. So, but man, that DK Metcalf's going to sting me for a long freaking time. I am so pissed at that. We're talking about the second biggest need on this team, and we had it right there. We had it right there for, big check, good chunk of cap space, but we have plenty of it. And a high second round pick, which I'm not crazy about it either, but it guarantees we get a number 1 receiver who's successful. That that second pick, there's no guarantees. Okay.
Yeah.
He could easily be a bust, as we all know here in New England.
Well, so Scott, while we have you, I don't know if you saw the Laramie Tunsil trade. I am so curious what your thoughts are on the Laramie Tunsil. Right, this is the same guy who got traded from the Dolphins to the Texans. The Texans gave up a boatload of picks, and Tunsil lived up to that contract. He's probably top 3 solidified best left tackles in the league with the Philadelphia Eagles guy, Vinny DePadua, and Laramie Tunsil. Those are the 3 best left tackles in the league. Then we have the Texans getting a 3rd-round pick this year, a 7th-round pick this year, a 2nd-round pick next year, and a 4th-round pick next year. And Tunsil, let me double check his contract. He's probably expecting a full rework of the contract after seeing all these linemen are getting. Do you wish we made that trade, Scott? And Dad, I'm asking you that same question. Do you wish Laramie Tunsil was here and those draft picks were gone?
Absolutely. I would do that. The 2nd and a 4th next year. With the revamped defense and a legit left tackle, even if we don't get great weapons, I would project us to be squeaking into the playoffs. So that 2nd-round pick next year is probably going to be late 2nd round. 4th-round pick, late 4th round, and we have 2 3rd-rounders this year. So we give up one of those, and we're getting a 4th-rounder back in return, I believe, Matt, because I think
4th-rounder back in return.
Also returned a 4th-rounder,
and it looks like he's
absolutely done that trade.
Looks like he's locked up for the next 2 years at a $21 million cap hit. I don't know how the Commanders are going to rework that. They probably will because everybody got so much cap space.
You could franchise him, if he wants to leave. Could have had him for 3-4 years.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Scott. Out of everything that happened, I talked about DK Metcalf. That Laramie Tunsil trade and the Joe Thuney trade are going to haunt me every time I see Drake May running for his life. If our free agency ended, but we got Joe Thuney and Laramie Tunsil, at this point, would you say that was like pretty much an A to an A+ for free agency, getting those 2 guys, or do you think you needed to get more? For me, that would be an A.
No. They'd be on the cusp of it. Yeah, I would say that. So I definitely would. Let's do some grades, Matt.
Okay.
Let's give out some grades for some free agents. All right, guys, you're in the chat. We want to know what you'd give for these players. Let's start out with the first guy they signed, Spillane.
The Spillane. Do you want to include the Tennessee Titans guy that they signed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Landry.
Another
good signing. Yeah.
So all right, that would be an A for sure. Yeah, like Scott, if we got that line, I would be so excited. Sad that doesn't seem to be the case. So I got all of the signings right here. Harold Landry, 3 for 43.5. It looks like it's 26 million guaranteed. He's had 12 sacks, and then last year I think he had 10.5 the year before, and then this most recent season he had 9. 28-year-old. I'm gonna give that probably a B. Like my dad said, edge rushers kind of grow on trees. He's a younger end, which is nice. He sort of got him in his prime, and for 3 years, so just after 30, when the wheels kind of fall off. So I don't mind that. I'm going to give that a B. What do you give that? That Harold Landry?
I give it a B-, which is good. B's are good. My preference would have been to pay a little more money and get Sweat, because Sweat only went for like $4 million a year for an extra year, I think. And Harold Landry, he is a surprisingly awesome run stopper on the edge. Not as effective in sacks, according to Pro Football Focus, but the guy puts up close to double-digit sacks every year, and last year he had nobody really on the defensive line with him. So maybe that's a little skewed, and maybe with Keon White on the same line, hopefully Christian Barmore, he comes back, and now Milton Williams, he can be more of an impact player. But my preference would have been to spend a little more, add a year, and get Sweat in here, who I feel like is just a better pass rusher. But hey, I'm still happy with him. I'm still pretty psyched.
So what are you going to give it? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
A B-. I guess.
B-. Scott also nailed it, and I think it's like you mentioned.
Scott did too.
I think one thing I like most about what Scott said is the work ethic. I think this was also a culture signing for Vrabel, bringing in the same stuff in from Tennessee. So as in coach knows, yep, I completely agree, Scott. And then the Robert Spillane kid, right? That kind of broke, and I feel bad for the guy because that was the Patriots' first splash, and everyone was like, "What? Who's this guy? He can't cover." Yeah. They got him for 3 years, 37.5, and what's the guarantees? Try and get that up. 20 million guaranteed. I don't know. I'm thinking like a like a C plus. I know we did need linebackers, but I felt like we almost needed a transformation at linebacker. We kind of just got a replica or a younger replica of what we already have, which I'm not super excited for. I really wanted a coverage linebacker. I wanted the Bond kid that re-signed with the Eagles, but he's back with them before we even, I guess, had a chance. So I'm going to give it a C plus. Patrick Ryan said B minus for Landry. So everybody's copying off each other's answers there. Maybe I ranked it a bit too high. What's your Spillane? Patrick Ryan said B minus too.
Spillane, I give a D plus to.
D plus.
Paid way too much for him. Like I said, we already have Bentley on this team. It's redundant. So he's a good run stuffing linebacker who cannot cover. We already have a guy like that. I would have rather had more of an outside linebacker guy off the ball who could cover and kind of take Tavai's place. Get that bum out of here. Who I'm so psyched we got him for 3 more years on the contract.
Man, I'm a generous grader. Scott Johnson gives him a C. You give him a D plus, and actually Patrick Ryan went higher. Will be B minus. And then you know what? We got John Sasso. I've never seen John Sasso comment. Thanks for commenting, John. You're probably one of my dad's buddies. So let's just talk about. We'll skip to Matt Collins. This is the last signing. 2 years, $8.5 million. When he was playing in Las Vegas with Josh McDaniels, he had 50 something receptions and he had over 650 receiving yards. So maybe Josh, big kid. This is the guy who doesn't wear shoes all the time. It's like always a story. It's weird. So I'm sure we're gonna have to hear about that. What would you, John? I know you said you hope he's not their big free agent signing, but it seems like they're kind of collecting wide receiver 4s to join them together as like a wide receiver 1 transformer or something like the Power Ranger. But what do you give that signing? 2 years, 8.5.
I'm with him there. I am not crazy about that at all. We already have too many 4 and 5 receivers on this team, and that's exactly what this guy is. He had the league MVP throwing footballs last year to him. He had Josh Allen throwing footballs to him, and he had 31 catches on 50 targets, and he's 6'4". That's not great. I mean,
he's 31 years old too.
Yeah, I get they're trying to replicate, probably what McDaniels was able to do with him in LA. But it's not crazy money if he doesn't make it. Hopefully if we do cut him or whatever, he doesn't kill us. But Hollins, yeah, I'm not crazy about that. I'd rather use that $4 million, put it towards a real wide receiver. So I'm gonna give that a D plus as well.
Wow. Okay, so John said a D. And a D minus for Scott Johnson. One thing I don't know if you guys know, he did have 5 touchdown receptions last year during the regular season and 104 yards and 1 touchdown in the postseason. So maybe a bit of a red zone threat, but he is on the older end. Scott Johnson said he'll be a special teamer.
He's triggering me. Don't ever say that again. Scott, the days of us spending too much money on special teams are gone now that Belichick. Don't trigger me, because that used to drive me insane what that man used to spend on special teams players. Don't do that to me.
All right. Next up, we got Patrick leading the charge again with Moses with the C. Now, I feel like Moses is getting a rough. Patrick is an F for Patrick. Didn't even want him on the team.
Patrick. I want to take back my D plus and also give it an F. You guys talked me into it.
I'm giving it a D. I'm going to copy off of John. Seems like he knows his stuff. I'm glad you're here, John. I'm going to say Moses. I feel like it's unfair to say a C because the right tackle market was so dry, but we needed something. I'm going to give Moses. I'm going to give it a B plus, just because it shows that they're willing to spend some money, even risky money. It might be bad money in the long term, but money on a lineman. He's an older guy. My dad doesn't like older linemen. I feel like linemen kind of like age, like fine wine, right? As you get older, you get stronger naturally. So I don't mind an older, stronger Moses. I'm giving this a B plus. I'm just excited to see something at the line.
I'm giving it a straight B because his specialty is pass blocking. He's not good at run blocking. Never was great at it, and he's really not anymore from what I understand, but I don't care. Protecting May is number 1 priority for an offensive lineman if you want to be on my line, and he's pretty good pass blocker. So I'm going to give that a straight B. he is older. It is again an overpay. 3 years, 8 million for that guy at 34 years old. That's a bit of an open, but hey, like you said, the suck tax. And I'm still glad he's here over Camden Wallace. I can't, that dude, oh my God. I'm hoping he turns it around. We spent the freaking third round pick on that bum, but man, he's got a lot of turning around. He needs to turn around like a ballerina, like a million times because he was terrible.
Yeah, and listen, we're being too generous, I think, to these guys because Scott's giving him a C- for Moses.
God is he's a mean professor. Holy cow.
I know. Hey, I'm luckily this is not Jeff Unknown with these grades. I'd hate to see Jeff Unknown's actually a teacher. Moses is better than what they have now. He's acceptable at this point. So, John, are
Yes.
you joining us up in the B range, or are you going to hand out naughty grades down in the C's like Scott Johnson and Patrick Ryan for that tackle? I'm giving it a good grade. I'm wondering what John has to say. He will still be a starter on our team. I mean, he played 14 games last year at 34. Hopefully he can, replicate that. We could actually have some continuity on our offensive line. John will come in with his grade.
That's a tough grader. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Next up, we got this is Milton Williams, the B+. So
wait. Carl, you want to go with Davis? Carlton Davis?
Well, Davis is at the bottom of his list. So we're going to hit Davis after Milton Williams. I'd give him a B-. There we go. John's up in the B range. I understand Moses is not he's not a Larry Mutunzel. He's not a Ronnie Stanley, who I think is a bit overhyped, but he was, the best there. But he's a right tackle, and we needed a right tackle. That was kind of not much else there. Milton Williams
is good too, so not bad.
Milton Williams, I think the only way this is below an A is if you cannot separate Kraft's money from your money, because this is not my money. And we have a rookie quarterback, $26 million a year, and the cap is making the jumps it's making year over year. I don't mind this at all. And if so, as categorically the best guy available on the market, he's one of the few game changers on the market, and we got him. I was very upset when he was actually locked into Carolina. And I think if anything, that makes this sweeter for me. Ripping him from the clutches of destiny and putting him on our team. I'm giving Williams an A in my opinion. Patrick's got him at a B+. What do you got, Ted?
So I give this an A+. He's the best free agent available as far as I'm sorry, no, A+. Did I say
yeah,
B?
A+. You said A+.
A+. Yep. The only guy I wanted more, and it's not because he's better at his position, it's because our need is so glaring, is if I had my choice, I'd rather have Stanley. And because the freedom that would allow us to have a left tackle in the draft and the rest of free agency, I would have. If you gave me a choice, I'd rather have Stanley, but that was never even an option because that guy's an idiot. Stanley, you're 36 hours away from free agency. You're the only good left tackle, and you don't at least wait 36 hours to see what other teams offer you. That's just not a smart person. That's not a smart business. But as far as just the best pure free agent available, A+. He's the best guy out there. He's only 26 years old, impact player that disrupts the middle of the field on defense. Those guys are great.
Listen, John, you were just like wicked smart because he hit him with the A. I love Milton signing. Very happy about it. A beast. Yeah, I think Scott, A-. Solid player. Solid player is underestimating him. He had some big plays in the playoffs, the biggest stages, Super Bowl, game-breaking plays. Those are the guys we love. Think about Dante Hightower, right? Of course, he wasn't a defensive tackle, but the defensive linemen who know how to make an impact play when you need it. And he made some needed plays in that Super Bowl. He forced one of the interceptions on Patrick Mahomes. He got some big sacks on Jaden Daniels, who we, of course, know is very slippery. He's a game wrecker, and I'm really excited to have him. Should really clog up the middle. Yeah, and if we can get Barmore, him, Keon White, Landry, and I'm blanking on one more guy, that's a really good defensive line. And who knows, maybe if we snag a little bit of Abdul Carter, now we're talking. I know my dad doesn't want Abdul Carter, but now we're talking.
Not now. Too much on the defensive line. You can't play them all.
All right, we're back to it. Davis. A. I agree he was a terror in the playoffs. Got to put some respect on him. The guy's a champion, and they won in a big
Yeah.
reason because of him. Not he wasn't just a bystander.
Two
He
sacks.
put
Two
yeah,
sacks and a forced fumble in the Super Bowl.
he
Yeah.
put his name
Pretty
on
good.
that game. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Carlton Davis, right? I mentioned this to my dad, and I asked him. I forget which one of you guys was taught trying to explain it to him, but I asked him which side of the ball are we closer to being elite at, and which side of the ball would be easier to build an elite program or an elite system in. And my dad thinks that because I said defense, I didn't want to draft anybody in the offense. The way I saw it was the free agents for defense were there. Our, current talent for defense was there. So I absolutely love the Carlton Davis sign because it leans into the where can we excel? Where can we spend good money? And Carlton Davis, I think, adds a ton of value. And having somebody of his caliber across from Gonzalez is a dream because I really am tired of seeing, Gonzalez, great coverage, everybody else just, running around. And some of the known, and we also have Austin coming back, Alex Austin. So I love Carlton Davis. I have nothing to add for the Pats talk, but let's effing go. Tim, a lot's changed, and I'm really glad, Tim, because I was almost gonna text you some, explicitives by the way it was looking. So I love the Carlton Davis. I'm gonna give it an A. I'm gonna give it an A minus. I'm gonna give it A minus. A minus. I don't want to look like I'm copying.
Professor Sasso dropping an A plus.
A plus. He loves Carlton Davis more than he loves Milton Williams. Wow.
All right. So I originally, on a whim, like immediately had it for an A minus, but after doing more research, like I said early in the show, I got it down to just a solid B. Glad he's
solid
here.
B. Wow.
So like a B. Yep. He misses more games than I thought. Penalties. He's really high on penalties. That is kind of an issue with him. But again, to have him as your number 2 corner, that's pretty damn good. I will take that any day of the week. Hopefully we're getting a lot of coverage sacks. It's too bad our safeties can't cover because we would have probably a ton of, sacks due to tight coverage. But unfortunately, again, like I said, safeties can't cover on this damn team. Peppers can't. Douglas certainly can't. But,
yeah.
I hope we don't go overpaying for Holland from Miami. Like enough. Let's get some damn resources. Let's use some of our resources for offense for the rest of the way.
I think it's easier said than done, right? And, I'm looking at what's left. So it looks like a guy named Will Fries, offensive guard. I don't know if he's left guard or right guard. He's the next best available offensive player. After him, it's Cam Robinson. I would love to see some money spent on Cam Robinson. I mean, Cam Robinson is dangerously close to Viridian Low in almost all of his markings and grades.
Yeah.
But you have to hope he's better than Viridian Low. What can the Pats
I was trying to talk.
Go ahead, Dad. Go ahead.
I was trying to talk myself into Cam Robinson, especially after Stanley went off the market. But the more I read, the more I watch, the more I don't want him.
Yeah. Nope. What can the Pats and the Kraft do to make the New England more desirable location? Tim, it's a great question, but it's so hard to compete with, I would say, the geological benefits of some of the places. It's like, do you want to be on the Miami Dolphins and live in Miami, or do you want to live outside of Foxborough and you're a 25-year-old super athlete, multimillionaire, right? It's a hard sell. And I think the best part of that NFLPA survey is it gives Kraft a clear, this is where I can improve. And there's a lot of easy improvements. And they're drops in the bucket. I think he has a ton of cheap for, at least for him, PR available for him with the improvements to the plane, improvements to the facility that he should be doing right now to get that in the news cycle. How do you feel about that, Dad? Do you feel like there's anything else that we could do to make ourselves more desirable?
That lighthouse was a complete. I don't want to touch on it a lot. I just want to focus on free agents. But that lighthouse was one of the dumbest ideas ever. All the money he dropped on that. It's really simple, Tim. You amp up the amenities of being a player here. Better gym, better plane. All the stuff that you failed miserably on that survey. It's simple as that. That lighthouse money should have went to that stuff. You make that stuff. You can't change the weather. Blah blah blah. You just can't. But it's embarrassing when other players hear it, what Patriots players have to put up with. So it's not going to, the free agents aren't going to start lining up at the door to come here if you improve those things, but it's at least one less thing where the players on the outside go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going to really need to get overpaid to go to that place. I got to deal with the weather. I got to deal with those old rickety planes, a crappy gym, crappy amenities. Like, control what you can, and that's the facilities around the players. And Kraft has not done that. So after 2 embarrassing surveys in a row, hopefully that gets fixed.
Yep, they need to make the trade at this point. It's going to be tough getting free agents here. I completely agree, and that's why Cooper Kupp, the Rams and Schefter released today that if Cooper is not traded before the start of the season on the 12th, then they're just going to release him. I don't know what the finances are, but he's under contract for 2 more years. Both of those cap hits are like plus 30 million cap hits, right? The way they structure his contract, I'd imagine a lot of that will probably stay with the team that trades him, maybe 50% or so. But I would 100% trade like a 7th round pick to get Cooper Kupp here for 2 more years. And I think that is probably, in my mind, the next domino that I really want to see fall is a Cooper Kupp trade. I think he'd bring a lot of maturity to the wide receiver room and accomplishments. What about you, Dad, from the trade perspective from Scott Johnson? Anybody on your mind?
I would need to know the details of if we trade for him, what the cap hit's going to be, what the actual salary is going to be for him. Like that's really what I would want to know. But as far as overpaying him to come here, I'd overpay him a little bit to be our number 2. I don't want him being our number 1. Like I'm just, if the Patriots are able to overpay and get him here, I don't want the Patriots going, all right, we're good. We don't need a number 1 receiver. We got Cooper Kupp. This isn't 3 years ago. That's not good enough. So unfortunately, that number 4 overall pick, because we weren't able to get Stanley, we're basically forced to address one of our 2 glaring needs. It's either going to be wide receiver or left tackle. That number 4 pick is going to that period. So, I guess it really depends on what our wide receiver room looks like. It's probably going to end up being a left tackle, but Cooper Kupp in here, I would not argue with that. I just really hope he's not coming in as the number 1 receiver. I hope it's number 2. Now you got Pop Nuggets number 3, and you get some other number 1. Preferably, would have been DK Metcalf. I would have been, now he would have been cooking. That's right. I'm so sore.
Yeah, you're just dreaming, right? I mean, so like Tim mentioned, like
we had him. We could have had him. But,
Tim mentioned, right? Like we want to make sure that we get guys who are gamers who can play in the cold, and that's why a guy like Laramie Tunsil played a lot of his career in Miami. Then he played left tackle in Houston. I don't know. Maybe he's not at a level where he wants to play in New England for 8 games a year. DK Metcalf, he played in Seattle. Seattle's a pretty cold place. The first thing I said, Tim said to me when we were talking about the DK Metcalf trade, and I mentioned him not wanting to be in the cold. Tim said he lives in Seattle. Seattle's freaking cold. Which is a bummer, but I mean, a new stadium in a desirable location that is designed well to make really loud and become our fortress. I would love a new stadium. I don't know if Kraft will ever do it, but the problem is if he ever does it, my taxes are probably going to go up. But at the rate that these owners are doing it, I'd love to get Kupp. John Sasso said 1-year deal, and he agrees. He wants to probably find out the numbers on it. And Kupp can't be our number 1 wide receiver. He would be a great veteran presence. I guarantee he would be by far and away our number 1 right now in this current roster. It's just not realistic to address every need this year. It all starts with defense. John, I'm in the same boat. My dad keeps saying we need to get a number 1 wide receiver, but where the heck are we going to find a number 1 wide receiver? I don't think
one thing for sure is we have a playoff defense right now. It's a top 10 defense definitely on paper. I mean, you don't know until it actually hits the field, but knock on wood, it stays healthy with the star power we just brought in, two lockdown corners. That's a top 10 defense. So we're going to be in games. We're going to be in just about every game. It's just a matter at this point of protecting May and getting a couple guys who can actually get open.
Yeah, Ayuk, he's like kind of I think the only number one wide receiver left on the market, and like my dad said, he's probably going to be on the pup for the first 6 to 10 games, and he just signed a massive contract, so it's not like we're going to get him on any sort of a deal. It would really be the 49ers trying to get out from underneath that. No doubt the D looks solid. I completely agree, and that was a possibility because of the guys available. I'm looking at the guys available, and I don't see the magic. And Elliott Wolf, sadly, and I think this is one of the big disadvantages of having Elliott Wolf is he just doesn't seem to have the connections that a lot of the other GMs have. Because I'm not hearing us in any of the rumblings. According to Phil Perry, we didn't even make a call for a DK Metcalf. We weren't even in the running, which is devastating, right? The fact that Laramie Tunsil goes without anybody knowing, how are we not making calls around the NFL? I like to take a run at Lockett. That's a good question. How old is Tyler Lockett?
He's old. I mean, does he want to come here for a reasonable? Did he? He was with that
32 years
Seattle
old.
team when they won a Super Bowl, right? I think he
Uh,
was. So he's got his ring. I mean, I guess I would. Again, I just don't want that to be all right. We got Tyler Lockett. We're good at receiver now going into the season. Wouldn't mind
uh,
Tyler Lockett even at 32 years old, if as long as it's reasonable money. Wouldn't mind Cooper Kupp as long as it's reasonable money. Those guys
he
are
was
old and they've lost a step.
he was not in a Super Bowl team. He started in 2015 years.
Oh,
So
so he's ring chasing.
So he's
Yeah,
32 years old. I
yeah.
wouldn't
He's
mind
probably not
Lockett.
coming to us.
I don't know. I feel like Lockett and Cup are somebody you round out a wide receiver room with. Um, I got a question for you, Dad. If we don't get anybody else, do you want Lockett or Cup?
I mean, yeah, they're better than nothing. I don't want us getting one of those two and the Patriots being like, okay, we're good at receiver now. Let's move
Well,
on.
what if they have to? What if there's nothing else there? I mean, is there any there's no way to
Yeah,
discern whether they did or didn't
you
say that?
take what you can get. Yeah. If I find out Wednesday Cooper Cup's on this team, I feel better going forward. I just wouldn't feel great until we actually get a number one in there.
Yeah, and I don't know where that number one is coming from. Yes, he's definitely not number one. You know who would be a great number one? If you really want to talk about old wounds, Dad, and bringing up things again like DK Metcalf, Lad McConkey. I just went and I looked at the receiving stats for last season. We had Lad McConkey right there. We traded the pick for Lad McConkey, and we got Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. Lad McConkey last year in his rookie season, 82 receptions, 1150 receiving yards, biggest game of his career against us. Put it right on our head.
As a rookie.
I mean, I'm looking around.
Good.
Go ahead.
How about Devontae Adams? Went for a very reasonable 2 years, $23 million a year. I mean,
AJ Brown.
could we not have offered Devontae Adams $5 more million a year to see if he took it to come here? That's number one. He had a really good year last year. I would take a guy like that. He played in Green Bay, so he's played in cold weather and produced in cold weather before. But nope, sheer money. Wouldn't even have to give a draft pickup for that. No reports whatsoever of the Patriots even making that guy an offer.
He did go to LA, and I feel like I don't know.
Then
Maybe
you'd have to pay like $5 million more a year, probably.
Oh, at least.
At
And
least
then,
offer it.
Scott's going even further back and bringing up AJ Brown, who cried when we didn't draft him. He was confident we were going to draft him. And there's a good chance Tom Brady's still on this team right now playing quarterback for us if we drafted AJ Brown. If we actually gave him a somewhat wide receiver. He wanted to go to the West Coast. I agree, Scott. I got a name for you, Dad. And, for Scott and, whoever else is watching. Jacoby Myers. Do you think there's any... Would you want to see Jacoby Myers back here? Would you consider him a number one guy compared with the Cooper Kupp?
Get the hell out of here. He's not a number one. He's a number three. He's always been a number three. He was just really good with us because we sucked. And by the way, Scott Johnson, AJ Brown, oh my God. Oh my God. Would I love that? I'd be like DK Metcalf, who? Like, who are you talking about? But again, I mean, is Philly giving that guy up after they just won a Super Bowl and they just took a beating in free agency? The Eagles just took a absolute butt pounding in free agency. So I'm not sure they're going to be parting with any more assets that are under contract. But man, would I love him.
Yep. Jacoby Myers is not a number one. You are totally right, Scott. But man, we are absolutely slumming. I don't see. I'm looking at like the list of receivers from last year, and there's just nothing that's going to be available. I do look at a lot of misses on the Patriots, like Jerry Jeudy. My dad and I both wanted Jerry Jeudy, and now he's banished to the freaking Cleveland Browns. He put up 1,200 yards last year. Would have loved to have him. Serviceable though, John said. I agree.
Lockett, Cup, Myers. I'd like to have him on the team. Again, I just don't want the Patriots being like, we're good. Okay, we got our receivers. Let's go do left tackle and other positions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking around, I don't know, guys. I think at this point, if we get Cooper Kupp on our team, we have to be overjoyed because I don't think there's much else out there from the Patriots' perspective. And is there anybody else, Dad, that you could think of that's kind of on your wish list?
I mean, it'd be nice if Hendricks kind of found out there isn't the market he thought, and he went back to the Bengals, and the Bengals signed him for like $20 million a year. That'd be great because maybe T. Higgins all of a sudden not getting his contract would pound his way out of town. Like, why is T. Higgins not threatening to sit out? How many players get franchised 2 years in a row? Like, teams usually don't use that. This guy's getting franchised 2 years in a row. All this money's getting thrown around. Why is T. Higgins not threatening to hold out? That's what he should. I mean, that's what his agent should be doing. Just for free agency, settling on a lousy $20 million a year. Unbelievable! Yeah. Like, holy cow, that bum from Pittsburgh, that left tackle who gave up 10 sacks last year and $1 million pressures, he got $20 million.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like, what are you doing, Stanley? Like, he should fire his agent for his agent not going, Stanley, we're waiting the 36 hours. You can always come back to the Ravens for this lousy $20 million they're offering you. And we didn't even get a crack. Not even a shot.
John, thanks for watching, man. Hopefully you're back. And just a heads up. So we're at 52 minutes. Next week, we're going to have a very good picture of what this team looks like. I have about half a dozen mock draft scenarios. We're going to put the old bull in the Patriots draft room. I'm going to throw at him first overall pick, second, third. He's going to have to make the fourth overall pick selection for the Patriots. He's going to have a timer on him, 3 minutes. And we're also going to throw a trade at him. The mock draft simulators nowadays have trade simulators, so we'll make those available to the old bull. See if he wants to take a trade or draft a player in that position. And I think we might have a special guest on the podcast to help the old bull in the war room. So be on the lookout for that around the same time next Monday. So excited. I think what's going to be one of our more interesting shows we're going to do, very interactive, and we'll see. And then hopefully we managed to somewhat predict the draft, right? We got to hit on one of these things. There's not too much that can go different in that 1, 2, 3, but is that after this draft, after this free agency, is there any chance you're going for anything less than mayonnaise and white bread? Are you going to spice it up even a little bit?
No. It's almost a sure thing that I'm going to go for some type of left tackle. It's not going to be my old love affair. It's not going to be Will Campbell. I want nothing to do with him playing left tackle. When I found out his wingspan, I just can't do it. But Banks Jr., 33 and a half. Yep. And he's also pretty damn good too. And you can probably trade back to the middle of the first round and get him. But I'm going to put a lot of thought into it over the next week, and maybe I pivot because maybe I really like Golden, wide receiver.
Yeah.
Maybe I like McMillan.
Yeah.
All I know is that number 4 pick needs to go to one of those 2 holes, those glaring giant abyss black holes in the Patriots roster, either left tackle or number 1 receiver. So
you're up for. See, everybody's already concerned you're going to go with alligator arms. Maybe We'll see. If my dad does get boring, we're gonna have to maybe we'll split him and the special guest up, and we'll have them each do their own drafts, and we'll grade them because there's a lot. I think this free agency makes me excited for maybe a Travis Hunter type player. Can we get an old bull on the panel with McCaffrey and Belichick, assuming we get that again? Yeah. I don't think my dad could talk to Bill Belichick. He just probably yell at him about
No, we get
Malcolm
into a
Butler.
fight. We would
Yeah.
we would get
Why did you bench
Belichick.
Malcolm Butler?
Oh, he would disconnect me in about 4 seconds. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not putting up with him. Yeah, I'm not putting up." But
Belichick gives my
it might
dad
not
that
be
many
what.
Super Bowls. Yep.
Oh yeah, no, no. Belichick's, as far as I'm concerned, held us back from a couple Super Bowls too. That's for damn sure. But I tell you what too, and Travis Hunter, man, how great would it be to have that guy as like a cornerback you bring in for third down to go with our other two corners? You talk about coverage sacks. Holy guacamole. You'd have to hope he turn into a number one receiver. You're going to take him fourth overall, but that's tantalizing too. Those three cornerbacks, Christian Gonzalez, Travis Hunter, and Carl Davis. Holy cow. No one's getting open.
Listen, Travis Hunter also is a pretty explosive wide receiver. I know there's one of the things he got knocked on was his route running,
Route running.
but
Yeah,
but
not great.
I
I watched. It's not great.
I would
But
really
he's
like to see.
athletic.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
athletic and he's a good kid. I don't know if you've seen any of the content. He does like his own little channel and stuff. Grid show. Good show, Scott. Let's go, Pats. Yeah, we're about to end it here. Tim, I would want to see it too. I would love to see my dad in the room with either Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. There's some exciting players in this draft, and we're at the top of it. So we're gonna have a big show on Monday. We're gonna prepare a ton for it. So be ready. Time will be of the essence, and we'll see if you guys agree with the old Bulls choices. Any other final thoughts, Dad, before we end the podcast?
No, guys, please go to YouTube and click that like button, subscribe. If you haven't, comment in YouTube. Even after the show, we answer them, and it helps our channel. That's all we really ask. We appreciate it. And in the future, if you can, make your comments from YouTube live, that also helps too. Thanks, guys.
Yep, we'll see you guys. Hope everybody has a good evening. Bye bye.